troubling news out of Libya. Seoul's foreign...
There was some shocking news on Monday at the start of the new week. Han Seok-woo, the head of trade relations at the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency in Libya, was kidnapped by unidentified armed assailants. Our foreign affairs correspondent Hwang Sung-hee went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and brought us real-time coverage of the incident. It was breaking news that made everyone worry about the safety of the trade official. But thankfully, he was released on the 23rd, just 3 days after being taken hostage, and the kidnappers were arrested. Once again, our Hwang Sung-hee connected to the newsroom and brought us the update.
Live on the safe release of Han Seok-woo.
President Park Geun-hye completed her 4-day state visit to India prior to a visit to Switzerland. And so on January 20th, Arirang's Primetime News invited Vishnu Prakash, the Indian ambassador to Korea, for a detailed interview about the diplomatic achievements of the president's visit. Through this in-depth interview, we got an inside look at the results of President Park's sales diplomacy drive, with the two leaders agreeing to revise their comprehensive economic partnership agreement and lower the tax burden on South Korean companies. We had news about this year's first highly pathogenic avian influenza outbreak. And on January 21st, reporter Connie Lee went to the site of the AI outbreak.
The infected farms are blocked off like this. This means no one can come in and no one can get out.
All the vehicles and people entering and exiting the blocked-off area are strictly controlled. Connie showed us how serious the AI outbreak was by visiting a restaurant that specializes in serving duck. With the experience of culling over 6 million birds in 2011 fresh in the government's mind, it is doing its best to prevent further outbreaks so that history does not repeat itself. Connie showed the tension around the site.
Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Gon-young.
6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is considered the prime time for news, and the news doesn't go out without his final touches. The job of an editor is to go over the news scripts to make sure they are factually correct, concise, and smooth.
No, Xi Jinping is the president. Kind of strong, there's strong penalties, right?
Along with his position as a copy editor, he is also the trustworthy host of After 10. It's Scott Thompson, who adds details to the news scripts and verifies their accuracy. His day begins every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He is
안녕하세요.
Scott Thompson, who is in charge of editing the afternoon and evening news broadcasts for Arirang TV.
Kidnapped in Libya, personal data of 20 million bank.
Like always, files and files of news stories await his attention.
I have questions. Like, this thing doesn't really make sense to me. It's going to gather 200 people, right, who are affected.
That's a requirement.
So maybe you can just say they're going to file a request for a special probe. We don't necessarily need to mention the number of people, right?
It is very important for a news editor to converse with the reporter who wrote the article.
So it's not really countermeasures. It's really kind of strong. There's strong penalties, right, for the firms.
Yeah, penalties, not preventive measures.
Yeah, right. So for the firms that had data leaked from them, they're thinking about penalizing those firms for the leak, right? Which could include fines and even a suspension.
He asks a lot of questions so that the message of the article is delivered accurately to the viewers.
Yep.
He's bombarded with questions, left and right.
No, Xi Jinping is the president.
A good article isn't made in one sitting.
An editor takes all the news items that come in from the reporter. The editor looks at them and obviously looks for any errors that might be there. Also helps the reporter sort of tighten up the story a little bit at times as well. I sort of look at the editing position as being a quality control type of person. So if you're making cars, for instance, all the people on the floor are doing the hard work, they're putting the car together, which would be the reporter in this case. The car finally is completed, and the editor is kind of like that quality control person who looks at the car, looks to make sure that everything is in the right place, everything is running smoothly, and then basically pushes that car off the line, which in our case as an editor, it's hopefully making that the finished product.
Scott has worked as a newspaper journalist and a newscaster in the past. The two jobs were slightly different, but he was always in the newsroom.
Business coordination and to enhance.
His past experiences are invaluable to him as a news editor.
Pledge. Later on, we'll play.
But editing is not an easy job, as he is responsible for what goes on the air.
She talked to somebody like from 3 years ago, though, that like it was hit or some expert who can talk about how it affected the economy and it affected the ag industry here, things like that. Get some perspective about.
That's not all. It is also his job as a news editor to aid the reporters in setting a direction for their coverage.
But you think the best angle would be getting another farmer there, right? Don't you think?
I mean, if you can't talk to the authorities.
I can't talk to the authorities. I can't. There's CBC people down there too.
Yeah.
I can't talk.
You can't talk to them.
I'm so busy.
Make sure you mention that in your piece, though, that you tried to contact the health authorities, but they can't speak on the record. Yeah, I would focus a lot, not a lot, but focus some on the thing from 3 years ago too, about how it affected them then, the farmers especially, and how scared they are this time, and whether or not they're taking precautions and what they're doing right now to make sure they don't get hit, or if there is anything they can realistically do at this point. There may not be much they can do.
There are many times when a news editor has to act as an advisor.
I will do that from time to time if a reporter needs some help sort of putting the story together. If I've got the time, I'm more than happy to do that. And that goes for finished products as well too. After the story's written, if I get it and I think we're missing something here, or this doesn't quite connect, or I think we need to sort of take it in a different direction, I might tell the reporter that, and we might have a discussion about this or that. Sometimes they win, and sometimes I win, but ultimately it's their product. So I trust them and their judgment. But again, my job is to sort of just kind of give them some feedback, and hopefully that they take it and use it if they can. And again, I keep saying this, but the final product is the most important thing. So ultimately, hopefully that final product will again be the best thing that it can be.
He has been glued to his seat, looking through news articles for 2 straight hours.
So basically, just the U.S.
This time, he has an animated conversation with a rookie reporter. She just joined the team, so there are many ways in which Scott helps her.
Wouldn't it be better if we say the United States also supports Iran's presence on conditions, on some conditions?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. United States has a more complicated. That's good. Okay. Okay. All right. Good.
The new reporter returns to her desk, looking relieved when Scott says, "Okay, good."
All right. So Hyunbin, I only see two visits here, right? Burns and Russell. Is that all?
Yeah.
But he's not coming.
No, he's not coming. He already said it was last week.
From diplomacy and national defense.
All right. Can we put that at the end then, maybe?
Scott, the agriculture, food, rural affairs, oceans, and fisheries.
To the agricultural and economic.
Is there another agriculture committee, though?
There's a ministry, but not a committee.
Oh, yeah. That's the only committee dedicated to agriculture? Just put the full name in there and I'll look at it.
He edits the scripts of dozens of reporters who cover many different sectors.
How should the two sides go about forging strong ties, shifting our focus on cultural exchanges?
Prompting is it good?
Prompting?
Is this used for like positive ways?
It's not necessarily forceful, but something's happened that sort of pushed you in that direction, right?
Sounds more forceful. They're forced.
Anchors are known for their broadcasting expertise, but Scott answers anchors' questions as well.
Being forced, or they're going to be forced to compensate, or they're going to be required.
The secret is to closely observe all the news that comes out.
Yeah, I don't know everything. That's for sure. I mean, I do follow the Korean news, obviously, through what the reporters write and what they're telling me. I learn even more about what's going on in Korea as well. So I do follow it through other media, of course, and then I follow it through our news as well. So when you put that together, I think I've got a pretty good understanding of what's going on here, but I would by no means say that I know everything. I know where to find the information if I need to, which I think is the most important thing.
It is finally time for dinner. This is the only moment where he can relax and take a break. But his break ends all too soon. He receives an urgent call from a reporter who is preparing for the 8 o'clock newscast.
Say including the CEO of KB Gukmin Card and blah, 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 as well as the CEO of NH Nonghyup Card.
Oh, just don't mention their names.
No, you can mention their names, but...
Okay, can I?
Yeah, just take the CEO out and then move it.
Most of the staff members have left for the evening, and the newsroom is quiet. But Scott is on duty, doing what he does best.
To lay the foundation for sustainable expansion and a more open economy through China's economic growth.
Do you think this title does?
The news is aired every 2 hours, and there is a constant stream of people who need his help.
Occurrence is a weird word to put in there, I think. How about this? Locations of AI cases, and then 3 confirm. Wait. Why don't you just write avian influenza and then 3 confirmed cases in like that, and then it's self-explanatory where it is, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Previous year
A day might be divided into 24 hours for some people, but for Scott, he has a jam-packed day with barely any breaks.
And raises the number of cases in poultry farms in Gotang and Wuhan to 3.
Scott is monitoring the report of a new reporter. It is also a moment for him to carefully monitor his editing.
That's good. Every 2 hours when the newscast goes on, I sort of get to take a breath because that's when we go on the air. Watching that final product is gratifying, or getting through one of those packages that I mentioned that may have some holes or may have some issues in one way or another. If I've helped to help that reporter get to where they want it to go, that's very gratifying as well. So those small victories, help the process along for sure. Watching the newscast as well when I have the chance. I don't always have the chance, but when I do, that's gratifying as well too, to see, it's not just words on the screen. It's not just me sitting at a computer looking at those words. It's actually going out and being broadcast, not just here in Korea, but around the world. So to have a small part in that is gratifying too. Hello, I'm Scott Thompson, and welcome to After
The other job title for Scott Thompson is host of a news talk show.
That are not contributing to the future economy.
Yeah, so number 6, I'm not quite sure.
Scott has hosted After 10 for more than a year, right from the get-go.
And
he knows, obviously he knows.
Yeah, he's a great speaker. So.
Yeah. What do you expect the North's response will be? This kind of plays into the provocation, right? Explain for us a little bit how North Korea views these exercises that take place.
북한 입장에서는
How do you think the U.S. will respond? And what kind of effect will it bring to the international community? It's sudden changes. Like, are we talking about some sort of
like
situation like Hwang Sung-hee, or
like sudden changes like Jung's execution happens? What will the U.S. respond to it? Like,
so
different from.
So maybe I can frame it like that. Yeah, as we saw the situation with Hwang Sung-hee, we know the North is very unpredictable. Let's say another sudden change occurs within the regime. How do you expect the U.S. to respond? And
the position of a news editor and a program host might seem like two different worlds, and they look like two different fields, but the experiences from these two fields lead into one another.
If I wasn't doing the editing, I may not be thinking about some of these topics as much as I would be if I wasn't doing that. And also, yeah, conversely, I think being the host of After 10 also helps my editing as well, because I've also talked to some people, prominent figures in this particular field that we're talking about for one of our news stories. So in that way, I've got perspective from that experience as well. So yeah, I guess they both kind of go hand in hand together. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Going through the ringers here. Right?
It is very quiet, but being on site can be quite competitive.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Scott Thompson, and welcome to After 10. Let's begin with the North's recent proposal to end slanderous...
In that quietness, there's a person named Scott Thompson, who reads and learns about the world and uses that knowledge to edit what comes across his desk. President Park Geun-hye arrived in New Delhi, India, just hours ago.
President Park held a bilateral summit with Indian Prime Minister.
President Park Geun-hye on a state visit to Switzerland.
President Park, who arrived in the Indian capital of New Delhi on Wednesday, started her trip by meeting with Korean residents. President Park's visit to India aims at laying the path for Korean firms to more easily enter. The two countries will be holding ministerial-level talks on the matter in March. But President Park says this is only the beginning. Two countries to create synergy in new sectors. And upgrading the Korea-India Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, as the current pact is focused on a low level of trade liberalization. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News, New Delhi.
계속 요 수준은 1.25로 돼
이 브로커한터 스위스 대통령과 정상회담을 갖고 정치, 경제
Park has called on Korean and Swiss businessmen to expand investment in each other's countries and seek ways. On Sunday, President Park met with Korean residents living in Switzerland and emphasized the importance of their role in A10 Korean Night, an event dedicated to promoting Korean culture and technology. Oh Jun-ju, Arirang News, Bern.
Start.
Good evening. You're watching special live coverage of President Park Geun-hye's opening speech at the World Economic Forum, currently underway in Davos, Switzerland. It's 11:45 in the morning in the Swiss Alpine city.
중계로 바로 넘어가겠습니다.
Congress Center. There he is, President Park Geun-hye, taking the stage to make her keynote speech. People applauding.
Thank you, Professor Shubham, for the kind introduction.
네임 시즌 넣을게요. 시즌 무빙인.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, gradually.
그거 첫 번째 슬로건 주세요.
Yet continues still. We will also make government information more open and accessible, and they lay bare the limitations, ethnicity, wealth, or education.
앵커로 가겠습니다. 앵커 두 줄.
All right, that was President Park's opening speech at the World Economic Forum, currently underway in the Swiss resort in Davos. And in her 25-minute speech, she elaborated on her vision of a creative economy aimed at nurturing creative ideas. She also urged power elites to cultivate entrepreneurship to effectively realize a creative economy. Now, Professor Yang, what did you make of her address?
Okay, I think very few of the ideas that she mentioned is completely new, and I mean that in a good way. Succeeded in 20 years, so it'll be very interesting to see if she can pull it off.
All right, Professor Yang, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And that brings us to the end of our special coverage of President Park's opening speech at the Davos Forum. We'll be right back for our regular newscast.